In this lecture, we will introduce the array data structure. Let's say you're asked to print a list of values in reverse order. Now, if you have a small number of values, this is pretty simple. So we can have some code like this. So we have A, B, C, and D. We ask the user to enter 4 numbers. We use console.nextInt to get A, B, C, D. And we can just print out D, then C, then B, then A. No issues, right? Yeah, this is simple, really easy stuff. Okay, how about 100 values? Or let's make it better. Let's do 1,000. That better? Think you can do that? Okay, go ahead and start coding it and have it by the next class. No, I'm kidding. I mean, let's just face it. Trying to reverse order printing like 100 values or 1,000 values or 100,000 values, that's just going to get real ugly. It would take, let's face it, it's going to take a lot of variables in order to pull that off. To help with that, we can use an array. So what is an array? Well, it's a collection or a sequence of a fixed number of variables. And we call these variables elements or components. Sometimes we even use the word items. I'm going to try to use the word elements in here, but I may interchange the terms at some point, so I apologize in advance if I do so. Now, all elements of this array must be the same type. So here's the catch. We cannot have an array that has both integers and doubles, for example. So if I create some array, all the elements in here must be the same type. Either they're all integers, they're all doubles, they're all characters, they're all strings, or so forth. But they all have to be the same type. Now, how do we create an array? Well, just like any other variable, we have to declare it. So how do we declare an array? It's very close to how we declare a variable. So we still have a type, and we still have a name, and we still have a semicolon. But the difference is we have this set of square braces that's at the end of the data type. So right here. So the format is going to be our data type, a set of square braces, and then the name that we're going to give our array. So in Java, an array is an object. So if you remember when we talked about classes, that means that the name of the array is a reference variable that stores an address, and that address will correspond to some object that contains the actual data. So if we want to actually store data, that means we have to create the object. We have to instantiate the array object. And the syntax for this is similar yet different to how we handled classes. So here's our syntax. So we still have the name of our, in this case would be the array. We have the equal sign, and then we have the new operator. What comes after that is a little different though. So instead of having some class name and some parentheses that we'll call a constructor, we have our data type, we have our square braces, and then we have this size keyword inside the square braces. Now this size must be a value that tells us how many elements the array is going to have. So we have to specify ahead of time how large this array is going to be. And this size must be a positive integer. Because think about it. If we're trying to say how many elements this array is going to have, is it possible, or does this even make sense to have an array of like -5 items? I don't see how you can do that. So this has to be a positive integer. And then again, if we try to do something like 4.5, how can you have 0.5 of an element? Do you like cut it in half or something? Like you just can't do it. It has to be a positive integer. So here's an example. So I have my int and then square braces. So that means I know I'm declaring an array and not just a normal integer. So in my array is called array. And I have equals new int and then 10. So what this is telling me is I'm creating an array, which is called array, and it's going to consist of 10 integers. Now I should mention that if our array is some type of numeric type, if they're an array of integers or doubles, that all the elements would be initialized to 0. Now if there's something else, they're not necessarily initialized. We'll worry about that later. But for numeric type arrays, they will be initialized to 0. Now it's also worth noting that there is more than one way to create an array. So here's another way to declare an array. So it looks similar to what we had before, except now our square braces are at the end of the variable name instead of the type. So this takes a single variable and turns it into an array. And this is fine There are no major issues with it. It's not incorrect. That's a double negative, I know, but we're going to go with it. But the issue is what happens when we want to declare multiple arrays on the same line? We would have to be very careful with it because we would have to make sure we use the square braces for each array variable. So here's an example. Let's say I have these two lines of code. So we have int a as an array and then b, and then we have an int array for c and d. In this case, only a, c, and d are arrays. B is not an array. Even though it's on the same line as declaring a as an array, because the square braces are with the a and not with the int, b is being declared as just a normal integer variable. So it's just recommended that you use the square braces with the data type and not with the name of the array itself.